Here.
Councilmember Krupa.
Here.
Councilmember Wright. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Here.
Mayor Percival.
Here. Up first is the invocation, which will be led by Bill Heller with the Hemet Seneceno Interfaith Council. If you could please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead today.
Good evening. I'd ask you each to take a moment now to close your eyes and settle in and focus on the presence and the love of God within you right now. Loving Creator, we give thanks for this time together. We know each one here is here by a divine appointment. They have a contribution to make. We know that these steps, these actions, will bring forward the highest good for all involved. Let us release all doubts, release all concerns, and know, trust, your loving presence is guiding each one of us in our time together this evening. For this we give thanks. In the name and through the power of the living Christ's presence, and so it is. Amen. Thank you.
If you could please repeat after me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Up first, our City Attorney closed session report.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session during the 6 o'clock hour. Item number 1, public employee evaluation, was not addressed. That will be held over until the end of your regular meeting tonight to see if council wants to utilize that session. Item number 2 was conference with labor negotiators. Council did meet with its labor negotiating team and gave direction. There was no other reportable action on that item. Council also did meet with the City Attorney's Office with regard to the items listed on the agenda. There were 4 cases which we discussed. They gave direction to the City Attorney's Office on each one of those, but there's no reportable action out on those items. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Up next is the consent calendar, and the consent calendar contains items which are typically routine in nature and will be acted by one motion or of the council unless items are removed. Sarah, do you have anybody that wants to remove anything?
I do. Susanna would like to remove number 9.
Okay. Is there anything that staff would like to remove? 10. And is there anything from council that needs to be put?
Number 11.
And number 11. Okay. That is almost all of them. All right. So the remaining 2, is there a motion to approve those? Okay. Please vote. Okay, 7 and 8 pass. Sue, we'll get to you after we get through. We'll get to yours last. Mr. City Attorney, you pulled number 10.
I did, Mayor. I had a request from council to just briefly discuss what this item is. Council previously adopted or joined into a joint powers agreement to become part of Western Community Energy. WRCOG is providing administrative services for Western Community Energy and has recommended that the council adopt a First Amendment to the Joint Powers Agreement. The document that's in your agenda has been prepared by WRCOG. It's been reviewed by my office. We do concur that it should be adopted. It makes 3 simple clarifications. One, that the executive director of the organization will be answerable to the board, and until such time as the board appoints a separate executive director, that WRCOG will provide those services. It also includes a clarification on initial administrative authority and services, that those will be provided by WRCOG per a separate agreement. And then finally, It does provide the rights of parties to withdraw with no financial obligation pre-launch. That means before the parties or WCE has incurred any particular expenses on purchasing energy or anything like that before notices have gone out. That's a good safety measure that we certainly have recommended for a long time, and WRCOG is incorporating that. Those are the three changes that are being made. We would recommend that you approve it tonight.
Very good. Are there any questions for staff?
Move approval.
Okay. Is there a second? All right, please vote. There we go. Okay, item 10 passes unanimous. Linda, you pulled item 11.
I did. Hi, Sudi. My question on this is that this is from the regular Measure A funds that these improvements are being done. So I guess my question is, how are we doing then with implementing the repairs that we need to coming from SB1 funding?
SB1 funding is allocated for certain projects too, and we try to wrap part of that into this particular slurry seal project if we came short, but the amount is so much higher that we are recommending rejection of these bids, and we are going to go out to bid within 2 weeks, and then at that point we can use the SB1 funds along with the Measure A.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
I have a question though.
So the difference between the two seals,
Yes.
slurry seals, how long, does one have a longer lifetime than the other one?
The rubberized
Rubberized?
The rubberized is usually quieter than the latex, but overall slurry seal makes the whole street a lot quieter besides preserving the pavement itself. At this point, they don't have enough data on the rubberized slurry to come back and to tell us that the lifelong is it 20 years or more, because it hasn't been applied for as long. Even though it's a good product, but because of it became a specialty product, and that is why the price went up so much higher.
If I remember right, when Linda and I were at ICSC, and we talked to some of the manufacturers of some of these seals, their pitch was, and I think it was the rubberized, that it lasted twice as long as the other, just the emulsion, or just the, I think it was just the emulsion seal without the latex versus the rubber. So my question then is,
We are not giving up the life of the product at this point. I do not have that data, but we also held a workshop within the city, and we invited the neighboring cities. There were about 11 different cities that participated, and based on that meeting, we decided at that time to go with rubberized, but the price was not so much higher. And then we also tried to apply for a grant. When the price came this much higher, we tried to apply for a grant, but then the grant now is not applicable to rubberized, but it could be applicable to the latex.
which I find really interesting, because why wouldn't they want something that lasted technically longer, that was better for the room? So, if that's the case. But, okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't, was it $1, anyways, and whatever that saying is, I don't know. Yeah, penny wise and a pound foolish.
Yeah, that. Sudi, have you heard of another option for paving other than the slurry seal that involves a polymer and essentially black sand, which is made from volcanic rock?
No, I haven't.
If you're not familiar with that,
No.
I can get with you later and share
appreciate
that, because that's currently in the process of being applied in my community, and they offer a 3-year warranty, but the anticipated lifespan is projected to be 10 to 12 years. So I don't know how price-wise it would compare, but I can get you that information.
We will do that at the same time. Also, there are different polymers right now. They keep on improving. One of the things we were selecting was to make sure that there is a product that is beneficial for the Hemet community and is wetter. And then as it gets warmer during the summer days compared to other parts of the Southern California.
I'll be happy to share that.
I appreciate
information. Since you're going back out to bid,
Yes.
it wouldn't hurt to have another
Definitely appreciate it.
contract.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. All right, that passes. Moving along, this is the opportunity for anyone for the public to, getting ahead of myself. Sue Savage. Item number 9. Beamer?
Hello. Yeah, the lights off. All right. There is news. We never see oversight by anybody of Hemet taxpayer dollars under City Treasurer Judith Oltmann. We have addressed this topic with this esteemed City Council for a year. Hemet treasurers had $74 million last month on September the 11th. 2 weeks later, the same $74 million dropped precipitously to $66 million without explanation. $8 million removed from investments without notation by Judith Oltmann, City Treasurer. In a June meeting with Councilwoman Linda Krupa, Ms. Krupa stated there would be a big surprise with regards to an independent investment oversight committee. Councilwoman Krupa is running for a 3rd term on City Council. California Form 460 lists contributions to Ms. Krupa's campaign. The biggest contributor to her campaign is none other than Judith Oltmann, Hemet City Treasurer. On September the 29th, according to the public contributions filing, Hemet City Treasurer is the largest contributor at $1,000 to Mrs. Krupa's campaign. It is worth noting Councilwoman Krupa's role on Hemet's investment committee. State and county officials have received documented concerns regarding Hemet's investment dollars under Judith Oltmann. The officials include California Attorney General and Riverside District Attorney. California Attorney General advised contacting the grand jury at both the state and county level. The advice has been taken. Riverside District Attorney took a more active role. Updates regarding the $8 million drop, no investment reports during months of July and August, campaign contributions, and a bi-weekly threat of Hemet City Manager's dismissal have been provided to Riverside's District Attorney. This is great news.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Do we want to receive and file the... Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. This is for receive and file. All right. 4-1. Okay. Now we can move on to the communication from the public. Sarah, is there anybody who wishes to talk about a non-agenda item?
Yes, Jessica Williams.
Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jessica Munoz. I'm the Executive Director of Voices for Children. We're the court-appointed special advocate, or CASA program, for Riverside County. It's our job to recruit and train and support very special volunteers called CASAs who advocate for children in foster care. I had the privilege to come and introduce myself to you about a year ago, introduced by Supervisor Washington, and since some time has passed, I wanted to come back and give you an update and let you know how we were doing, and specifically the ways in which we served children from Hemet last year. I'm really delighted to share with you that in the fiscal year that ended in June 2018, we exceeded our service goals and served 356 children in Riverside County. About 40 or so of those children are from Hemet, so over 10% of the children that we serve have a very strong connection to this community. And this is an important service for these children to receive because, as you know, boys and girls in foster care have come from situations where they've been abused and neglected. And CASAs have a very special role to play within the foster care system. Unlike the social workers and attorneys and service providers who are caring and dedicated but often managing very unwieldy caseloads, our volunteers advocate for only one child or one sibling group at a time. And so from the child's perspective, the benefit is a caring, consistent adult presence, sometimes for the first time in their life. From the system's perspective and the court's perspective, the benefit is that there is now an adult who has that caring relationship with the child, who also has the leverage and the authority to have access to their confidential records and to advocate on their behalf. So while I'm delighted that we've served as many children in Riverside County as we have after just 3 years of operation here, and I'm especially delighted to share with you that so many of your young constituents have received the benefit of these services, I also want to share with you that we always need more volunteers in order to serve more children. We would love to continue to see participation from community members from Hemet and the surrounding areas because it is such a tremendous need here. So we're doing everything we can to get out the word and to share with our stakeholders and our partners both how well our volunteers are doing and how we'd always love to have a few more of them to continue serving more children. Like I said, because I did have an opportunity to come last year, I didn't want that to be the end of our conversation, and it was important to me to come back and let you know how our program has grown and to, again, affirm our commitment to serving children in this community and also looking for a few more volunteers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I do want to say that a client and good friend of mine are foster parents, and the kids that they bring in is just, it's a joy to them because they're able to put some normalcy, I guess, in these young kids' lives.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so thank you for continuing to do the great work you do.
Jessica, may I ask a question? You're recruiting for additional volunteers. Are you, in what capacity? Is it above and beyond or in addition to foster parent?
So the role of a CASA is distinct from the role of a foster parent. Unlike a foster parent, CASAs don't have children residing in their homes. And while there are many dedicated foster parents who provide care on a full-time 24/7 basis, which is a unique brand of heroism in and of itself, CASA volunteers come alongside the child to serve as an advocate. So the child doesn't live in the volunteer's home. The volunteer spends time with the child at least once a month, but most of our volunteers are seeing their kids 2 to 3 times a month on average. And regardless of where the child's case may go, so if a child changes placements, for example, or moves from one part of the community to another, that volunteer stays alongside them. One of our CASAs recently asked her young lady, "Do you understand what my role is?" And the girl looked up at her and said, "Yes, I know you're the one who will stay with me." And so it's that sense of stability that the volunteer provides, coupled, of course, with the advocacy, regardless of what the backdrop of the child's circumstances are. So we're looking for folks who are willing to make an 18-month commitment. We know life happens, but we ask them to go in with that mindset, who are 21 and over, who have 2 years of driving experience. And beyond that, our volunteers are diverse, and we like it that way because so are our kids.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Can you leave your card with City Clerk?
I'd be delighted, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Sorry. Okay. Very good. Moving along, our discussion action item number 12, easement agreement with Western Center Community Foundation for the placement of a major project entry sign, pylon sign for the Diamond Valley Lake Park specific plan. Mr. City Attorney.
Mayor and Council, after your last meeting, you had some questions about the intent of the use of the pylon sign by WCCF, revenues that could be raised and the use of the revenues, and a request for some additional clarification on advertising time. I reached out to representatives of WCCF and was provided an email with regard to their intent to use the sign, which I've incorporated in the staff report. Essentially, their intent, as stated, is to just use the sign to advertise the programs and facilities of the three entities that are part of WCCF, and on occasion where they have programs or events that are being sponsored, to advertise or identify the sponsors. They do not plan to, and they would not be permitted to use the pylon sign as a traditional advertising sign, as you might see along a freeway or a heavy traffic corridor. It's not an off-site display. The agreement requires that they comply with the provisions of the specific plan for the Diamond Valley Lake, and the Diamond Valley Lake specific plan does not allow any off-site advertising. With regard to the revenue, they plan to repay the costs of the sign and then to fund programs. I don't have any financial documents to that effect, but that was the representation of from WCCF, and I don't have any reason to doubt that representation. The request for some clarification on sign time for city events was made, and they, of course, reiterated that they would allow us to post emergency public safety announcements or public service announcements as necessary, and then they agreed that 4 times a year the City of Hemet could advertise city-sponsored or other Hemet community events without having to seek the approval of the WCCF board. And in addition, of course, you could ask the board for that. I made those changes to the agreement. The clarifications with regard to our advertising time is reflected in Section 3. I cleaned up the language with regard to the term. It is in substance the same, but I wanted to be more clear that the term of our easement will be what's called coterminous with their lease agreement with Metropolitan. Section 5 does that, and then Councilmember Krupa had identified a couple missing words in Section 16 amendments, which we have now taken care of. So with that, I can answer any questions. We are recommending approval of this item tonight.
I do have a question. First is that they have a lease agreement with Metropolitan?
Yes.
So how come we didn't mirror with what they have with Metropolitan with a lease agreement as opposed to an easement?
Based on the footprint on the property and what they were asking for, my determination was that it was better to do an easement for just the area of the pylon and not lease the entire parcel to them.
So is Metropolitan leasing the entire parcel, or are they just...
I don't know. The other caveat was that the civil code in California actually imposes a 99-year limit on lease terms for municipal entities, and our term will go farther than that.
I believe that Metropolitan's will as well, correct?
Doesn't apply to Metropolitan. It just applies to municipalities.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question. Now, I know this is, so for the lease agreement, easement agreement, we could never do anything with this land anyways, right? So why wouldn't we consider just giving them that piece?
Can't answer that question.
But you're making recommendations to us, so.
I'm making recommendation on the form of the agreement that I was asked to draft. I don't know any of the original business terms, and I can't inform you what we used the parcel for. I would have to refer that to the community development director, the deputy city manager, or your city engineer.
No, I currently don't know what the use of that is, so I can't answer that. Deanna isn't here either, so we're unable to provide that answer to that.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Very good. This is a discussion item, so I will open it up to the public for discussion. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor or against the easement for the use of a pylon sign? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lori Van Arsdale. I'm a member of the Western Science Center Board. But I just wanted to point out something that I don't think a lot of us think about because it's been there for quite a while. But just remember something. All of that campus, everything from what Valleywide did to what the group did that organized and were able to get the Western Science Center in and raised all of the millions and millions of dollars to the tune of $50 million to get everything done, to Metropolitan putting in what they did. The city of Hemet has not put in, I don't think, one dime when it comes to the infrastructure and the construction of anything out there. So thank you for considering doing the sign, because I think it's just a good gesture, and it is a facility that has made a huge difference in it being an attraction to the city. But I know that when we were there, we talked about what we may do someday, but it ended up being that we did not put in any of that. There was a dedication of an X amount to Valleywide and parks overall, but nothing that was specific that I could remember. So I want to thank you for that consideration and hope that you'll approve this for tonight.
Thank you, Lori. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor or against? Seeing nobody rushing the mic, I will close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the council.
I have something else to say. The things to talk about aren't things like against the Western Science Center, but it's just about the business practices for the city. So the questions that I have about, giving an easement agreement and questioning whether or not they are going to sell advertising. I mean, if there's advertising on the board and they're getting money for it, then it's selling advertising. The fact that the city of Hemet didn't put any money into it, and the group that did, they did an amazing job, but this has nothing to do with anything except the business dealings of the city. And oftentimes we give away the farm and it comes back to bite us. And so don't think that any part of this is about that. The NFL up to 5 years ago used to be a nonprofit organization, so just to point that out.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I just wanted to comment that one of the things that we have discussed in our strategic plan is promoting and marketing Hemet as a destination. And as far as I'm concerned, the Western Science Center is one of the jewels of attraction. And it seems like a very, very minor concession to grant them an easement for all that we potentially could regain in public exposure to the city of Hemet and how that might favorably impact our economic situation downstream. So that's all the comment I have on that.
Since everybody's commented, I guess I'll throw in my 2 cents for what it's worth. Only 2 cents. I want to say that the area of the Western Center and the Western Center Academy is probably one of the best performing schools in Hemet Unified, and Valleywide has done a great job with the parks over there, with all the fields, and they bring in top-notch competitions. And I think that if they're going to use this for advertising those events that are held there and the events that are held at the Western Center, I think they're being good stewards. I think that by all those events that have come there and have been a net benefit to the city, and I think that's a good thing. And I think that as the Western Center continues to grow and Valleywide continues to grow in that area in the park and bring in more, I think that's just going to be, this can be not the very beginning, but a step in the direction that that area continues to develop and can bring in more long-term, more tax dollars and tax revenue into the city. So I think this is a good step in the right direction. So,
I still think we should give it to them instead of make them, I mean, it's just, I think that all things should be looked at.
and I don't disagree.
We do have existing right-of-way facilities there. It's a chunk that has some curb and gutter and sidewalk. I don't know how big the remainder is. It's not a large remainder. It's not a sellable remainder, which is why we chose to go with an easement to preserve our right to maintain those facilities, but to not have to worry about carving off a new parcel to give to them. It was the most easy and economic means of doing this and keeping track of it and making a recordable document out of it. So, that helps.
All right. Any other questions, comments? We've got a motion and a second. You ready to vote? All right. Please vote. All right. That passes 4-1. Up next, City Council reports. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. As an alternate to Water Master Board, I did not attend their last meeting, and only if our primary representative can't go, I'll be at the next one. On the Disaster Planning Commission, nothing specific on the commission, but I did want to reiterate that hopefully we had good participation in the Great Shakeout exercise on October 18th at 10:18 a.m. Everybody remember where you were at 10:18 on 10:18. Hopefully you were ducking and covering, and I actually did that myself. There really wasn't anything to duck under because I happened to be in my home in the bedroom, so I just hunkered down by the wall. But I did try to remember to play along with that, and hopefully everybody else did as well. I know in my community we have an emergency preparedness committee that actively took part, and they actually did close to a full-scale exercise with cruising the neighborhood and doing windshield surveys. So it's a good event, and I'm glad that the city participated in it the way we did. Traffic and Parking Commission has not met, and I did attend the meeting with the Western Community Energy Board as an alternate to Bonnie, and they gave us an update, and basically what was generated out of that meeting was the action that we took this evening on approving that amendment to the agreement. And that's all I have to report on those. I had the opportunity to participate on October 20th at the Flapjack fundraiser for the community pantry, and actually had a chance to spend some time on the serving line, serving up sausage, but I made sure that I ate the pancake breakfast first, so I wasn't tempted to sample while I was serving. And then later that evening, I had a fun time. I was asked to be a judge at the Rotary Halloween party. Got to be a judge in the Halloween costume. So a lot of creative people having a lot of fun as adults. Halloween's always fun where adults get to be kids again for a short period of time. So those are always interesting things to do. So that's all I have to report at this point.
Thank you. Councilwoman Krupa.
Okay. Ramona Bowl Association, Boo at the Bowl is starting on Friday at 5:30, I believe it is. And it will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings up at the bowl. It's bigger and better each year, and would invite both adults and children to participate in Boo at the Bowl. The library board, they recently received a $1,500 request, which is always nice, and the library is often named in wills in our community and do receive monies through that.
Also, Day of the Dead Craft Day is Friday the 26th, correct? At 3 p.m., starting at 3 p.m., and that will be followed by family story time. One of the things at the last meeting that was reported out was about children's time at the library, and how usually, you pick up steam going through the year, and by the end of the year, they're at capacity, which I believe is 35 or 37 kids in that room, and this year they're already at nearing capacity, and will probably be adding a second children's time, which is absolutely awesome for our library, and the kids come, and I don't know who enjoys the reading more, whether it's the adults or the kids. SCAG, the 9th Annual Southern California Economic Summit will take place at the LA Hotel downtown in Los Angeles on December 6th, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was able to go to a luncheon where Saboba was giving an update on their hotel and casino, and they are scheduled to be opening in mid-February. What they have out there at the resort is absolutely phenomenal. Just really great things that are happening, and it's a great addition to our community. I also attended the Riverside County Health Coalition this last week, and discussing health improvement plans for the coming year, also creating healthy communities, and that is something that I hope comes back to our council very soon on our agenda to do a resolution joining the healthy communities in Riverside County. And on that, I just wanted to make a statement for public record that there seems to be several misinformed people in the city who choose to believe opinion instead of fact regarding term limits for Hemet elected officials. Hemet does have term limits. Measure W was on the ballot November 2nd, 2010, and it reads, during their lifetime, no person shall serve, whether by means of election or appointment, no more than 3 terms of office as a city council member, as a treasurer, or as any other elected city official. This term limit shall be applied separately to each different type of elected office held. A partial term of office shall be considered to be a full term where more than 1/2 of the regular term of office has been served. This measure shall apply prospectively, taking effect as to terms commencing in 2012 and thereafter. That measure did pass and became effective in 2012. So therefore, I can and I am legally running for city council. Now, in response to Mr. Art Scribner's assertions that Hemet City official term limits are enforced by Ordinance 1401, which states that term limits are 2 terms, let me read from the court decision regarding Ordinance 1401. And this is court document filed January 10th, 2008. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Riverside, case number RIC 467459. Howard Tunget, citizen of Hemet, does 1 through 20 pro per as plaintiffs. The defendants, Robin Lowe, Hemet City Council member, Lori Van Arsdale, Hemet City Council member, Stephen Clayton, clerk for the City of Hemet, and the City of Hemet, a general law city. On December 11, 2007, defendants, City of Hemet and all, appeared before the Honorable Judge Edward D. Webster presiding. Howard Tunget appeared on his own behalf as a pro per plaintiff. After full consideration of the moving payment, papers, oral argument, and the documents on file with the court granted defendant, City of Hemet, Robin Lowe, Lori Van Arsdale, and Stephen Clayton's motion for summary judgment. The court also ruled in defendant's favor on Issue 1 and Issue 2 as follows. Issue 1, all causes of action against Hemet defendants fail because Ordinance number 1401 is not and has never been valid Issue 2, all causes of action against Hemet defendants fail because Government Code 36502 does not apply retroactively to ordinance number 1401 to make the ordinance enforceable and valid. The case is dismissed with prejudice, and the defendant shall recover their costs. Now, therefore, while ordinance number 1401 may not be removed from city records, it has been ruled as not valid and has never been by the Superior Court of the State of California. And I would like the city attorney to comment on why it is still a matter of record, although it is not in our municipal code.
City has a records retention schedule, and certain things like ordinances, whether they're invalidated or not, have to be kept for a long time. So it remains part of the city records, but it has not and never was operative and effective. The city's never enforced it because it was invalid under state law at the time.
Thank you. Now, as regards to Sue Savage's last email on the investment reports being missing, I'm not sure what she's looking at, but they actually all are there. And in response to the missing dollars, Lorena, could you please come forward and explain, as you have every year, where that money is?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Every July, the city prepays the unfunded liability portion of the PERS to realize a 3 to 4% discount on what we pay for the year. So we send those two payments every July, and all of our insurance policies premiums are due in July as well. So it is a big month. We do make a lot of payments. They're all listed on the warrant registers that are posted to the website. So if anybody has any questions, we can provide those.
Thank you very much. And that concludes my
And
report.
so just for clarity, again, that was a finance issue and not an investment issue.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Wright.
Okay, Planning Commission was canceled. That's been happening a lot lately. No report on Western Riverside Council of Governments except for what Councilwoman Cooper said with regards to December 6th SCAG event, excuse me. And Homeless Task Force, we had a very productive meeting yesterday with a lot of stakeholders, and we are setting up now that the feasibility study has been done, phase 1, we'll be having a planning session within 2 weeks and moving forward on a 3 and 5 year plan. No community action to report other than what we reported last time on the State Plaza Task Force. And the Western Community Energy Board is tomorrow. And I also attended the presentation by Saboba, which was very enlightening, and I think another jewel that will be another jewel in the valley. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Wait. I am going to report on Valley Restart, the event that we had at the Clipper Ship, fundraiser for Valley Restart, which was extremely successful. Over 200 people attended, and it will certainly make a big difference for Valley Restart for the end of the year. So those of you that came, thank you very much, and you can look forward to the one next year. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, our Parks Commission was canceled. Nothing from our CHCA. And our Investment Oversight Committee, Councilmember Cooper and I are waiting for the staff to finish the RFQ and to schedule a meeting, so we're just kind of waiting on that. Besides that, right? We directed them to have a meeting, so. All right, that's it.
I have nothing from planning because it was canceled. RCHC I didn't go because I'm the alternate. RCA I reported on at the last meeting, and RTA I'm the alternate. So out of all of those, I don't have anything to report. I did go to the last week on Thursday to Student of the Month. It is a lot of fun to go there to see, on Thursday, 7 students from our area high schools, all seniors were recognized, and some of the adversity that they have overcome and still excelling in school is just phenomenal. And hearing their stories is, some of them will bring you to tears. So I was out that on Thursday. Last week I was in Long Beach for the California Association of Realtors business meetings. At those meetings we went over all of the ballot measures that are coming up on the November 6th ballot. However, a big vast majority of them there were voted on not real estate related, so we didn't really take any action. The realtors did take action on 2 of them, which is Measure 5 and Measure 10, which are both related to real estate. So there's that. And a couple things. Had a meeting about the upcoming Christmas parade. This year's theme is Christmas on the Silver Screen. I did want to mention that there were no convertibles available for council for that parade, so I want to pass out some pictures. There's some alternatives that we can choose from. So I wanted to let you take a look at that to get your input on that. I did reach out to Hohen Audi in Temecula to see if they might be able to provide some vehicles. So otherwise, our alternatives are city vehicles. 2 different types. One would be a dump truck pulling a flatbed trailer, or the other would be a stake bed truck. So I wanted to show those to you to get some feedback so that you can give me some, tell me what you want to do.
So one thing that wasn't mentioned was the fire anniversary event on Thursday.
I haven't got to that yet.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm waiting on this first.
You want feedback on these vehicles?
If you want, or if you don't want. I'll let
I saw a skip loader in the background. I'd like to
stand in
do
the
that.
bucket and hold on for life.
I was going to offer to drive the skip loader and see who wants to sit in the
I'll watch
bucket.
the same.
Only I don't want the
Yeah.
dump truck. Huh? Yeah.
I actually drove a skip loader in a parade before.
Very good. So there's that. So then, as Bonnie mentioned, on Thursday, the 26th, at Fire Station 1 is a celebration of the Hemet Fire Department's 110-year anniversary. I think that's a huge milestone considering what the fire department has gone through over the last couple years, and actually briefly being contracted with CAL FIRE and then shortly thereafter rescinded. So I think this event will be a good gesture to the public, and hopefully I think there's going to be a good turnout. So you're all invited, and the fire chief will be there. He's already committed. So good, very good. So we're looking forward to that.
And of course, holding an event at this time of year in this climate, I think we need to be very sensitive to the fact that this is not a campaign event by any means of any kind, and it is simply there to congratulate the fire department of their longevity, and hopefully everybody will have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is to note that the fire department is 2 years older than the city. So, and 110 years is definitely a milestone. So, I look forward to it. And that's all I have to report. Up next, Deputy City Manager.
Sure. So good evening. I do have a couple updates. Staff is working through the future agenda items. I know that there was some desire from the council to get those things done and completed. So we are coordinating a work study for the microchipping item. Hopefully by the next meeting we can get that one squared away. Also, too, happy anniversary to the fire department. I know the police department has one in a couple of years or so, so they're not too far off either. And then finally, I've got a letter that was sent to the city from a resident, and I wanted to go ahead and read it out loud. As you are aware, a large tree was removed from in front of our home that was lifting the sidewalk. The two-home mailbox had split the cubing and possibly affected the gas line. There were multiple crews involved, from the removal of the tree, the sidewalk, the curbing, to putting everything back in its place, etc. I want to commend each crew for their professionalism, friendliness, concern for what they accomplished, and pride in their work. The city should be proud of their workforce. Even though one was a Dodger fan, I forgive him. Please make any official in the city aware of this letter that you wish to. Thank you for a great job, and signed by the residents. I wanted to read that out loud. Thank the men and women that do work for the city of Hemet for the good work that they do in our community every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Ad hoc committee reports, master annexation, nothing to report, and Florida Avenue committee. Linda, did you get anything new from the previous report from the, I do want to make mention of one thing. At the last meeting, in the local paper, there was a comment made that the district director had quit. I just want to clarify that he did not quit. He transferred to Los Angeles area. So he didn't quit. He just transferred to the LA area. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Other than that, I don't have any other ad hoc committee reports.
If I could just add on that, on a transportation issue, which has nothing to do with the 74 project, that long-time transportation professional and enthusiast and guru, Bob Wolf, passed away early Sunday morning. He was extremely helpful to Riverside County for all of the years that he spent in transportation, not only locally but in Sacramento, and was always an advocate for Hemet on transportation needs, and was one of the people that I had reached out to on the 74 project, and he actually gave some pretty good pointers on where to go, and unfortunately he has left us. So just wanted to report that.
Thank you. Future agenda items? I know. No. Yeah, they are still there. Hopefully we're tackling some of them. Are there any others that you want to add to the list?
I guess maybe we need to put some priority on here, because, there's some things that just need to be addressed. And I think that another thing is that, well, actually, I can talk about this at a later date. So.
Okay. I agree. Some of these need to start getting on the priority list to get addressed.
Yeah, the reality of it is the more time that's spent on some of these agenda items, future agenda items, is less time that can be focused in on the other priorities of staff. So I'd love to duplicate some of our staff, but they're only stretched so thin, and so additional items that do get put on them does thin them out. So I would encourage that future items just be given clear direction so that the staff can prioritize and make it work.
We're good with that.
Yeah.
Just clear direction.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, we will adjourn this meeting and continue into closed session.